Hello and welcome to Football Daily, where today we've got 11 players for you who suffered disappointment but came back fighting. Goalkeeper, Petr Cech. A Champions League and four-time league winner, Petr Cech may be with the Gunners now, but he remains a Chelsea legend, setting a record for clean sheets in one season with an incredible 21 back in 04-05. That year, Chelsea conceded just 15 goals, but a year later, Cech was almost killed on the pitch when he received a knee to the head from Reading's Stephen Hunt. He underwent surgery for a depressed skull fracture, with Jose Mourinho saying his stopper was lucky to be alive. But Cech, unbelievably, was back in training the following week, and 3 months later was back on the field, wearing his now trademark scrum cap. The big man has since gone on to earn 174 clean sheets in the Premier League, more than any other keeper. Right back, Javier Zanetti. Javier Zanetti was born and raised in Buenos Aires and tried out for one of the city's biggest clubs, Independiente, when a teenager. Incredibly, he was told he was too weak and resolved to prove the doubters wrong. Zanetti went to work with his father as a bricklayer and began drinking milk and eating lentils in the hope of growing up strong. It worked. The Argentinian went on to play 1,100 games in his career, becoming his country's most capped player and earning the nickname the Tractor for his remarkable strength and stamina. Zanetti was so committed to fitness that he even used his wife as a barbell while on holiday and went for a run between his wedding and the reception. He retired at the age of 40 after 858 matches for Inter Milan. Centre-back, Javier Mascherano. In 2006, Javier Mascherano was a hot property on the transfer market. The 22-year-old had been linked with Real Madrid and Barcelona, but shocked everyone when he joined Alan Pardew's West Ham, along with Argentinian compatriot Carlos Tevez. Immediately, the Irons embarked on a horrific run of form, losing 8 and drawing 1 of their next 9 games, with the little chief unable to get off the bench. Pardew was dropped through the redundancy trapdoor, and when it turned out that West Ham had breached third-party ownership rules to acquire their new midfielder, the Hammers were slapped with a £5.5 million fine. Mascherano left for Liverpool, where he formed an outrageous 3-man midfield with Gerrard and Xabi Alonso, and went on to win 4 league titles and 2 Champions Leagues with Barcelona. Turned out he was alright. Centre-back, Walter Samuel. Argentinian defenders have a reputation for toughness, and no one epitomised that like Walter Samuel. Nicknamed The Wall and the Minister of Defence, Samuel played 4 years with Roma in the early 2000s, winning Serie A and a move to Real Madrid. Despite spending just 1 season in Spain, Samuel played under 3 different managers, with Real in upheaval. He returned to Italy with Inter, but his image was damaged, and it was uncertain whether he could return to his former brilliance. Samuel spent 9 seasons with the Nerazzurri, winning Serie A on 5 occasions and the Champions League, alongside Zanetti and Lucio. And in 2010, as Inter became the first Italian side to win the treble, he was named Serie A Defender of the Year at the ripe old age of 32. Left back, Patrice Evra. Now seen as a bargain at £5.5 million, Patrice Evra had a ropey beginning to his 8 years with Manchester United. Ferguson pipped Arsenal, Liverpool and Real Madrid to the signing of the Frenchman, but Evra had a disastrous debut, getting subbed off at half-time in a 3-1 defeat to Man City. The ex-Monaco man's erratic play saw him benched in favour of Mikhail Silvestre, but Evra was a hard worker and determined to rediscover the form which had attracted United in the first place. At the end of the following campaign, he was named in the Premier League Team of the Season, along with the rest of United's back four and goalkeeper Van der Sar. 379 games later, Evra left for Juventus, with a fistful of league winners' medals and a Champions League 1-2. Midfielder, Roy Keane. Regarded as too lightweight to make it as a footballer, despite having taken up boxing at 9, Roy Keane was turned down without a trial by several English clubs as a teenager. But Brighton decided to have a look at the young Irishman before rejecting him as physically inadequate. Undeterred, Keano began writing to clubs in the hope of attracting an offer, and he soon caught the attention of Nottingham Forest scouts. Legendary manager Brian Clough was impressed, and Forest paid a princely £47,000 for the tenacious midfielder. 3 years later, Alex Ferguson stumped up a British record £3.75 million for Keane, and he went on to make nearly 500 appearances in the red shirt, spending 8 years as captain. Midfielder, Paul Scholes. One club man, Paul Scholes hardly put a foot wrong during his career with Man United, except when it came to tackling. but the England international decided he would rather retire than deteriorate and hung up his boots in 2011 at the age of 36, after 10 Premier League titles and 2 Champions League wins. But an injury crisis 7 months later prompted Alex Ferguson to ask his former midfield general to get back on the field. Scholes made his second debut in the Manchester derby and ended up playing for another season and a half, winning another title and passing 700 club appearances. He retired again in 2013, but it wasn't all good news, as Scholes' return led to the departure of a young French midfielder, disappointed with his lack of game time, Paul Pogba. Forward, Antoine Griezmann. Antoine Griezmann might be one of the world's best forwards now, but the Frenchman almost didn't make it at all. Griezmann's maternal grandfather had played professionally for Paços de Ferreira, but the young Antoine struggled to impress scouts. He was rejected by Lyon, Auxerre, Sochaux and Saint-Etienne for being too small, and this was in the early 2000s, when even silky playmakers like Ronaldinho and Zidane cleared 5'11". Griezmann's parents had faith though, and finally the break came, when a Real Sociedad scout came to a local tournament. It took just 10 minutes for him to be sure that Griezmann was worth signing. 11 years on, Griezmann has helped take Sociedad back to La Liga, played in Champions League and Euros finals, and took just 85 games to reach 50 league goals for Atleti. And funnily enough, a fifth of those were headers. Forward, Fernando Torres. A £50 million price tag is a lot for any player to bear, but Fernando Torres found it especially hard when he joined Chelsea in 2011. The Spaniard had a filthy record of 65 goals in 102 league games for Liverpool, but the switch to London proved rocky. Torres netted just 20 goals in 110 top-flight appearances for the Blues, though he did score in a Champions League semi-final against Barcelona, on the way to Chelsea scooping the prize. A move to Milan seemed a good solution, but once again Torres failed to settle and rejoined childhood club Atletico Madrid. Nando has given everything to the Atleti cause, working tirelessly to free Antoine Griezmann and even reached double figures in the 2015-16 La Liga campaign, the first time he had done that since 09-10. Midfielder, Johan Cruyff. 1978 seemed like a disastrous year for the Netherlands. They had lost in the World Cup final for a second time in a row, and Johan Cruyff announced he was retiring. Although the pain of the World Cup stayed with the Dutch, Cruyff was back on the pitch a year later. The 32-year-old revealed that he had lost millions in a pig farming venture and went stateside needing the money, playing for the LA Aztecs and the Washington Diplomats before returning to his native town, Amsterdam. Cruyff won 2 Eredivisie in 2 years back at Ajax, and after the club refused to offer him a new deal at 36 years old, Johan was so pissed off he decided to join fierce rivals Feyenoord, winning the double and Dutch Player of the Year before hanging up his boots for good. Forward, Harry Kane. A king in the white half of North London, Harry Kane started out in red, joining Arsenal's academy at 8, but was released after just 1 season. A short spell at Watford followed, before Kane finally ended up at Spurs when he was 11. Like most youngsters, Kane was loaned out, excelling at Millwall but failing to make any impact in spells with Norwich and Leicester. But when Spurs gave him a shot, under the cack-handed stewardship of Tim Sherwood, he began to look like a star, and Mauricio Pochettino promoted him to starting centre-forward. In his first 2 seasons, Kane managed 46 Premier League goals, twice appearing in the division's team of the season. From being given the boot to the golden boot, Kane's story is a magical one.
So there we have it, but what do you guys at home think? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, why don't you click here for loads more great content and down there to subscribe. And as always guys, we'll catch you later.